So we then move on to the next talk, which will be given by Vidisha Bansal. And she is a research assistant at Tongmyong University, Busan, South Korea. And she will be talking about rediscovering the pathways in schizophrenia is essence of neurotransmitters and antipsychotics. So over to you, Videsha.
Thank you. Hello everyone, my name is Vidisha Bansal and I'm a chemical engineer. And today's topic for discussion is rediscovering the pathways in schizophrenia and essence of neurotransmitters and antipsychotic. As we know, schizophrenia is the most widely recognized mental disorder. Approximately 1% of the entire population is affected through this by this mental disorder. There are many characterizations which are being discussed nowadays to diagnose schizophrenia, but the most important, which are stated by World Health Organization, are disorganization in thought, emotions, and behavior. More than 1.5 million studies are reported on schizophrenia, which widely includes causes, symptoms, pathways of different neurotransmitters and causes, treatment, diagnosis, and also few studies state about the post-treatment and post behavior of patients gone through schizophrenia. There are five major causes which are discussed on schizophrenia are genetics, neurotransmitters, environmental factors, lifestyle, and antipsychotic drugs. Now, according to the causes and the symptoms seen by the patients or diagnosed by the doctors, there are five types of schizophrenia: paranoid, disorganized, catatonic, undifferentiated, and residual. Now, these symptoms which a patient suffers during a schizophrenia are further divided into three types: positive, negative, and cognitive. These disorders are very progressive as the disease progress, and there are at times a stage come where there's no differentiation between the real and the imaginary, which actually leads to self harm and suicidal thoughts and even suicidal activities. Now, while going through different literatures available on schizophrenia, I identified and realized that there are some questions unanswered, which include that the identification of different pathways or changes in the pathways due to dysfunctioning of neurotransmitters in the brain, how the variation of neural pathways affect the state of symptoms, that with time how they aggressive and how the different neurotransmitters do uh, set some symptoms, to identify changes in the pathway due to administration of antipsychotics, that how do the antipsychotics actually hold on or suppress the symptoms and treat the patient. The dopamine hypothesis is one of the most relevant and promising hypotheses till date for understanding schizophrenia and its symptoms. Out of all the five receptors, D2 receptor is the most involved, and D1 is being investigated nowadays. Brain region which is mostly affected by or stated in the dopamine hypothesis is thalamus, due to which there are some severe symptoms which are related to positive. And also the antipsychotic drug studies state that only 60% of positive symptoms are reduced or suppressed during when we treat dopamine receptors through antipsychotic drugs. Great. We realize that the relation between negative symptoms and cognitive symptoms in the dopamine hypothesis is still into consideration or needs to be explored. So we are still working on it, and there could be some connection according to that. Now, this is a systematic representation of dopamine hypothesis in schizophrenia, that when the dopamine regulation is normal, there is normal functioning, and that is healthy psychotic, uh, that is healthy brain functioning. When there is some dysregulation, which is usually preferred, which is actually stated that the secretion of dopamine is increased in various parts of brain, which leads to dysfunctioning in the brain. So that is and causing schizophrenia symptoms. This is from our previous paper, which is in press right now. Then the second most major hypothesis is about glutamate. Glutamate hypothesis is nowadays very commonly talked because it associates with all the three types of symptoms. So all the positive, negative, and cognitive, they are being talked into this hypothesis, not just like dopamine, they're only focusing on positive. Relationship between glutamate and various genes are also being investigated in different studies. And these genes are also related to different neurotransmitters other than glutamate, like GABA and dopamine. So, and symptoms reductions are also seen that the symptoms which are there in schizophrenia, which are diagnosed in schizophrenia, do get suppressed when glutamate is treated through antipsychotic drugs. Then NMDA, that is NMDA, the receptor of glutamate. It was noticed that in the previous studies that any abnormalities in NDMA could lead to dopamine and GABA dysfunctioning, which can cause severe symptoms of schizophrenia. Then the drugs are typically differentiated into atypical and typical. Atypical are the newer drugs for schizophrenia, for treating schizophrenia. These newer drugs are more efficient because they have fewer side effects with the other drugs which you take, which a patient is given on the diagnosis of different problems like obesity, diabetes, cancer, even heart related issues. Because with schizophrenia, these diseases are commonly appearing in patients. Then typical drugs are the older drugs which were given previously, but they had some severe side effects with now that they are not preferred much, but still they are good prescription drugs till date for the patients who suffer a severe symptoms of schizophrenia. Other drugs like antidepression and anti-infection are also given to the patient to prevent other problems during schizophrenia. Antipsychotic drugs are helpful in reducing mostly the positive symptoms. The studies on negative symptoms and cognitive symptoms are still into studies, are still into consideration. And mostly papers talk about the positive symptoms, and both the drugs act both as antagonist and agonist. So we have to focus on that which drug is acting as agonist and antagonist, so that we could actually follow the pathway after the antipsychotic drugs are given, so that we could actually say that how the drugs are working in the brain and suppressing the schizophrenia symptoms. Alternative pathways are being noticed. There are few studies which states that after the antipsychotic drugs are given, on the basis of their nature, whether they are antagonist or agonist, there are alternative pathways noticed in the brain. But to firmly stand on this, we are still in progress. This work is in progress right now. It is not yet completed. So to stand firmly on this point, we'll be needing more research and time to present this point. Work done till date are that we have identified neurotransmitters for different symptoms, identified different pathways for different neurotransmitters. We have traced some changes in the state of symptoms due to alteration in neural pathways. And we have also identified various brain regions affected during schizophrenia from different neuroimaging imagining studies. Work in progress are identifying, we have to identify the widely used recent antipsychotic drugs as antagonist and agonist, so that we could further trace the changes in the symptoms which are after consuming the antipsychotic drugs, then identify of any changes in the pathway after consuming antipsychotic drugs. The suggestions over here are invited. This work is still in progress, and we have presented it to get insightful and helpful comments and suggestions from the experts listening this presentation. And I would also like to thank my lab members and my supervisor, Dr. Indana Chatterjee, and other lab members for helping out in this work. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Vidisha. So, yeah, so you have done a literature survey looking at different neural pathways, identified them, different brain areas that may be implicated. So that's great. So let's see if there are any questions from the audience, people who are attending. So there is seems like to be one question. So actually, it is from. So I should actually say we have at back end we have Hadi Motamidi, and he's actually the person who is making these things happen, although he's not on in the front. So he's at the back end helping us running this session, and actually he is very excited about science as well. What's happening here? So he has a question for Vidisha. So how are these pathways studied? And can we study a pathway for two or more neurotransmitters simultaneously?
That's a very interesting question, and thank you for raising this. Indeed, the pathways which are right now studying are we are focusing on the literature already available, and then we are going to give a theoretical insight on if there are different pathways also available. Because I'm studying because the entire the study is on making the pathway possible, the possibilities of having different pathways, alternative pathways. And the second part of the question, as it says, that can we study a pathway for two or
So
more?
that's yeah, exactly. So the second part of the question was this: that can we study more than one neurotransmitters simultaneously?
We are actually focusing on the interaction, the inter-interaction of different neurotransmitters. Like there are studies focusing on the interaction between dopamine and GABA, especially dopamine and GABA, and serotonin and dopamine. So the studies on simultaneously focusing on two different neurotransmitters or more than two is a very intensive study, and they need a lot of path recognition of different pathways which they are involving. Like if I remember right now, one example that there is a gene known as DARP. This gene is responsible to manage NMDA, the receptor of glutamate, and D1, the receptor of dopamine. So when we are talking about one gene, if there's any fault in one gene, then there are two receptors getting uh, disturbed due to that. So there are different neurotrans. We can study different neurotransmitter synapse at one time simultaneously with help of different genes or maybe some different pathways which are there. So it is possible. I hope that
Okay,
answers the
that's
question.
good. I think that's more than will do. Okay, so any more questions? So probably people are still thinking. So because you are the only speaker remaining live, Lucy is not. She has to go, so she has left the first speaker, and also Angela Huang is not here. So we can
Yes,
probably
ma'am.
ask a few more questions to you. And there's another one here. So, what do you mean by when you talk about positive side effects? Yeah,
Uh,
I mean that was a interesting term, positive side effects.
exactly. That was an interesting term for me as well. Positive side effects mean not something good side effect. It means that the side effects which are visible or which a person actually develops in their natural behavior, like hallucination, uh, delusions, uh, problem in speaking. So those are positive. They are mentioned as positive symptoms, and because they are visible to the doctor or the other people who are interacting with the patient who is suffering from schizophrenia. So that is the word positive side effects of different malfunctioning of different neurotransmitters.
Yeah, I mean hallucinations are the good trips. one of the examples that you gave. So there's another question coming from Bianca von Caminade. So she has a question that do common antipsychotic drugs only target one neurotransmitter, or are there drugs that target multiple neurotransmitters?
This is actually into consideration of our study. This answer to this question will be given a bit later because this is into progress. It is not yet finished, but I believe there are drugs which have different symptoms which are responsible to suppress two or at least two neurotransmitters together, because there's a great relation between dopamine and GABA. So if uh, they are any malfunctioning in these two, then there should be a drug available out there to suppress the symptoms relating to at least these two commonly. So to answer this, I'll need some time.
Yeah, that's good. So I had one question, which is you have focused mostly on pharmacological interventions. So what about non-pharmacological interventions? So what about, for example, meditation and exercise? So they could also have a positive impact. So what do you think about that?
Exactly. The pharmaceutical, if a patient is given treatment non-pharmaceutical, they have really positive uh, impact on the patient to reduce some symptoms in them. My favorite, we have gone through them, a couple of them. Our study will be focusing on them also as well, but a little, not much, but a little. One of my favorite and which I can remember is music therapy. This is for the people who are get very violent in nature. They that So music therapy is given to them, and soothing music or some instrumental music therapy is given to them because it is believed if you hear such music, the serotonin receptors are activated, and due to serotonin release in the body, you get a little suppress in your violence nature. So this is one of the study we have been focusing, and we have decided to work on this.
Yeah,
So
that's great. I think that's good. So we had